What is up, everybody? Hoang0 here, and today I bring what is probably the most requested series that I have not done in a very long time. It is Eyes on the Meta. Eyes on the Meta is a video series that I previously did where we highlighted deck lists from Japan, both meta as well as just deck lists I thought were really cool. And so this video, we are going to bring it back in the post BT13, which starter deck format. This is, I believe, with ban list in mind as well. We have a bunch of different decks ranging from all of the different meta decks to what I think are just super insane and quirky decks that I think are just really fun in general. So I'm really excited to jump right into that with all of you. And to kick us off, we have what is currently leading Japan in terms of results, according to not only the results I found, but also East as well in his recent data reports, Miragegaogamon. Miragegaogamon is a deck that at the start of the BT13 format did not perform as well as people would have liked to imagine. However, as time progressed throughout the format, this deck began to perform better and better, and it really pushed over the edge when they received the training boost, right? Training boost is check top 2 cards of your deck and add 1 card of that respective color. So if it's a blue training boost, you add a blue card. But notice how I said blue card. And that's because it can add options as well as tamers. And so what that means is that you're much more consistent in finding your Thomases, which is a really core part of your deck. Miragegaogamon from BT11 is a really fantastic way to swing tempo back into your favor and whatnot. So yeah, just overall, it's a really strong deck, I would say. And we have 2 different Miragegaogamon lists I want to bring into attention. This first one, if you'll notice, it is on the 4 training boosts, because like I said, it's super important. It's also on the 2 normal memory boosts. It has 2 of the BT13 Miragegaogamon that does bounce back a tamer. It does not run the Nikolai, and then, yeah, so it also runs the 1 hybrid. And it has 4 of the blocker Miragegaogamon from BT11. So a couple of things that I do want to point out is that, number 1, the blocker Miragegaogamon is plus 2000 DP for every 4 cards in your opponent's hand. That additional DP gain is really good for pushing outside of Shinegreymons DP minus thresholds, making it a lot more awkward for them at time. BT13 Miragegaogamon can bounce back a Marcus, which can slow down a lot of your tempo. The Ranamon is an absolutely fantastic finisher if you're looking for that last piece of damage. In testing, Ranamon has come up a ton. I even bumped it up to 2 in testing. Training boost, like we said, insane consistency bump. It's not affected by memory blocker as well because it reduces, because you can cash it in to reduce the next evolution by 2. So really strong right there. And yeah, Japan really hasn't come to a consensus as far as what style of build they want to go about, because either you're playing the Nikolai or you're not playing the Nikolai, and it's either 0 to 2. There's no like, oh, you have to play this. Like when you have Thomas, I mean, you have to play Thomas, right? Like if you're not playing Thomas, you're probably losing the game. How many Thomases you play, I mean, like it varies, of course, but like you're playing Thomas no matter what, right? Nikolai is, you just can't decide, like, because Nikolai, the jamming is really good, right? The jamming is great, but you don't always need the jamming, because sometimes you just don't want to swing out early. Swinging on 6 and 7, you're probably safe, so really no need to get that additional jamming. Yes, you can swing out like Rookie early, I guess, if you really want, but if you want to swing out early against Shinegreymon, that doesn't seem very good. And so I think, and then Nikolai, if you want to gain back memory off of his second effect, you have to proc it 3 times to pay back his value, so not a really huge fan of Nikolai in that sense, but what I do acknowledge Nikolai doing is that with BT13 Miragegaogamon, which it cannot be redirected, that can get you your guaranteed chip damage, so into Shinegreymon, into Wargreymon, both really both decks that are a really good matchup for the BT13 Miragegaogamon, and then you give yourself jamming, so you're guaranteeing that you're going to live that check unless you hit like an option or something, of course. And this deck also runs the one of Full Moon Howling, I believe it is. It's it's, what is it Full Moon Howling? It might be. But it is the Miragegaogamon burst mode option for BT13, and it's going to bother me unless I can figure this out. Give me 1 second. I'm also going to lower the music just a smidge, y'all. Okay. Hopefully I lowered it. I really can't tell. But Full Moon Meteor Impact. Okay, well we were getting there. But anyway, that aside, moving on to the second list, you do notice that it does run, in fact, the 1 Nikolai. But unlike the other list, it also cuts down on the training boost that it plays, and it doesn't run the 1 of option as well. This doesn't run the hybrid. This is a lot more streamlined as far as your ratios go. Because like if you notice, oh this other list you're only playing 7 level 5s, and this list, well, we're actually playing 8 level 5s. You're playing 3 of the BT13 Miragegaogamon, and like other ratios here and there, but this is a lot more like streamlined about what it's trying to do. But it does run the Nikolai. I think definitely this is one of those things in testing where like test out the Nikolai, see how it feels. If you like Nikolai, then by all means go for it. Personally, not a huge fan of Nikolai, so moving on. We do have Metalgarurumon, and this is with the ban list in mind. Metalgarurumon, prior to the ban list, was actually doing very, very, very well in Japan with the starter deck. Because with Metalgarurumon Ace, when you digivolve into it by discarding 3 cards, it essentially becomes a free evolution. And if you ever played Metalgarurumon, you know that when you go into that EX1 Metalgarurumon, and you're gonna pay like 2, or you're gonna pay like 1, but you're generally paying like some form of memory, and sometimes that just shorts you in killing your opponent flat out. And then with Metalgarurumon starter deck, it's 0 cost, so now you're just no longer an issue, and then you can go into Metalgarurumon, and then like your lethal line was so consistent. Not to mention that you got all this other like forms of like new support, like the new map, for example. But going forward, right? All of these other decks, not the other decks, but with the ban list, right? So you're losing 3 of your promo Wargreymon, now it's at 1. So in exchange, you have to compensate for that a little bit. And even with that compensation, this deck is still finding some degree of success. This one in particular, aside from the Metalgarurumon, is also running Dexmon, which I think is very interesting. But of course, Dexmon is like a splashable card that you can see in really anything. But it also runs 2 of the Wargreymon. This is where it gets kind of spicy. Its main effect is when attacking once per turn by trashing 1 card in your hand, unsuspend this Digimon. And so if you have battle protection, if you evolve into if you have battle protection, then you're generally safe on the swing, right? This is also 8,000 base, so it's pretty chunky. And then it's ESS when attacking once per turn by trashing 1 card in your hand, delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So this card is basically your Wargreymon promo supplement. Yes, you'll lose out on the Security Plus, but it's still going to swing twice before you even go into the Wargreymon X. And then you could run the new Mat. Mat will give you back a memory if you use the ability to trash a card. And this deck is also running the blue plugin. That makes you unblockable as well as jamming. So again, a really interesting battle synergy going on there. The purple Wargreymon does evolve over anything with Garurumon in its name at the level 4 slot, but we have seen some builds in Japan as well as some English testing where people are just playing a much more heavy purple style base and then blue top end, because you can just go into that. And then I want to change the music. Give me 1 second. I love DW3, but like it's throwing off the vibes. It's throwing off the vibes. All right. We'll go. All right. Okay. Okay, so back to this. We do have Examon. Examon is a deck that came second at Japanese Nationals, and that player made it pretty far in Worlds as well. This list is very similar to what their list was, minus with the addition of the new promo Dracomon. New promo Dracomon allows you to warp Digivolve into Wingdramon, as well as giving you reduced costs onto the some of your Joggers plays, and so really, really great consistency booster right there. And more importantly, this list is on Heaven's Judgment. Heaven's Judgment is a powerful option for 7 cost, but you can despite being a yellow option, you can cast it if you have a green card on your board, right? So with all your green Digimon, yeah, it's super easy to cast. Heaven's Judgment is minus 6,000 DP, and then for every color you have on your board, so blue and green, it's an additional minus 6,000. So with Examon or blue-green just in general on your board, that is minus 18k worth of DP onto your opponent. So really, really powerful, as well as running the red plugin. So with Examon, that's 4 damage, or Slayerdramon even, that's 4 damage. So yeah, really interesting to see Examon continue to perform. This is one of those decks that it's so powerful, but the consistency is always the issue that it's going to face, right? So if you can get through that inconsistency issue, which the new promo Dracomon helps a lot with, this deck is very powerful. Now moving on into green, a little bit of that Bloomlord, right? And Bloomlord can be built in a lot of different ways. This is a lot more of a traditional style of Bloomlord, with the new additions being the Lalamon as well as the new Sunflowmon. Lalamon is on play, check top 3 cards, add Vegetation Plant Fairy, and then add a Yoshino. You're not running Yoshino, actually you're not even running Tamers at all in this list. Instead, you're playing 4 boost, 4 training, which just stock it up and then just go crazy, right? But Sunflow is when you would tap this Digimon and then Digivolve into a Fairy-type Digimon with a minus 2 cost. So when you Digivolve into Bloomlord, instead of a 4-cost, it's a 2-cost evolution, and then Bloomlord like gets back all the memory, does all that jazz, right? Really good synergy. You go Ayatar, Sunflow proc, Bloomlord, and then bam, you're Bloomlord for super cheap. And both Sunflow as well as Lalamon reduce the evolution cost by 1 if you're evolving to a plant, fairy, vegetation. So, although I believe they need a tamer for that. Let me go ahead and double check on that moment really quickly. Let's see. I believe they actually do need a tamer. Yep. Okay, so you do need a tamer. So this list specifically would not give you that tamer cost reduction. So I do find myself wanting to run some sort of tamer, maybe even like at least a one of Mimi or Yoshino. But like I digress. And then moving forward, that's this list. We do have a different take on Bloomlord. This one is running a much heavier emphasis on the Yoshino engine, with the Sunflow, with the Lala, as well as 2 of the Lilamon. So Yoshino is a memory tamer, as well as when you would evolve into a plant, vegetation, fairy, tap this tamer and gain a memory. So it's going to make your plays a lot cheaper, and Lilamon plays a Yoshino for free. So yeah, really strong stuff right there, because you can go like Sunflow, tap out Lilamon effect, play Yoshino, and then you can like tap the Yoshino, go into like Hydra, but like whatever it is. But it's just really strong overall. So yeah, green is really interesting. On paper, green looks like it has like so many different tools to like really mess with your opponent. But the issue with green that I found is that you are really prone, or you're really weak to board wipe decks. So with Shinegreymon in the format, as well as Belphemon, sometimes it's just really hard to contest the board state just because you're going to get wiped more on average. So I think if you're playing green, you have to be really cautious of that fact, right? And then other green decks I want to talk about, we do have Leopardmon. Leopardmon is the other green SR that we did get in the set, but it's an SR we don't talk about a lot. And I personally really like this deck. Well, specifically, I like Leopardmon. I think Leopardmon as a deck is very good, actually. But the issue with Leopardmon is, again, it's the board removal issue, where like if you get your board removed, then like it super sucks. But unlike Bloomlord, you're not as explosive, so it makes your plays a lot more difficult. And so this deck, what it's trying to accomplish is it's trying to use an alliance engine. So you're trying to use this alliance engine to get additional value, because it plays out the body for free, and you're playing all these Terriermons, so you get to play the Terriermons out for free. And then you can turn all those Terriermons into blockers and such like that. And with Leopardmon, for every body you get out for free, that's an additional attack, because Leopardmon can tap and then unsuspend and then swing. And at this end of your turn, or I think it's the start of your opponent's turn, it's one of those two. It doesn't matter either way. Or I guess it does matter. Let me double check to clarify that. It is it is end of your turn. Trash the top of this card, unsuspend all of your Digimon, and then regular Leopardmon does give you blocker. And if you notice, this deck plays Namakemon as well as Kiwimon. Kiwimon is check top 3, I believe, and then add a card with Digisorption, which your entire level 5 lineup is all Digisorption, so it's going to hit. And then Namakemon is add top card, I believe it's green or some shit like that. It's something along those lines, but plus it's off my head. So I guess the general gist here is that you're using the Alliance Engine to fuel additional bodies. Leopardmon can play out a green Digimon for free from your hand, not for free, but play a green Digimon from your hand at a reduced cost of 4. So both the Mikemon, Kiwimon, as well as the Namakemon are all 0 cost. Get all their value. You can Digisorb into them. You can go into another Leopardmon. You can do all this like jazz. It's really cool what you can end up doing. But the purpose, I guess the general gimmick is that you're trying to multi-attack as many times as possible while generating as many bodies. And so if I were to build this deck for Leopardmon specifically, I think I would go more with a Lilamon approach, so that way you can get additional security attack, so every swing is 2 damage. But I think this route is very interesting. Okay. Moving forward into yellow/purple territory, we do have Kuzuha Maste Ordine. It's a lot. So basically, it runs a Kuzuhamon engine with the plugins and everything like that, and then you have a Maste play. So, and then how it all works out. And I say Maste play like with like air quotations and stuff like that. But how it all ends up working out is so. You have the Gatomon, right? And Gatomon can go into the Lady Devimon. It can go into your Maycrack, so both of which are really easy components for Mastemon. And then also it can go into, still Digivolve normally into your yellow Digimon. And what you can do there is you can go Kuzuhamon, Wolf Claw out play Wolf Claw for free because you're Kuzuhamon. Go ahead, play out your level 5 that's underneath, so probably like your Domon or something like that, and then also Kuzuhamon effect, play out the Gatomon effect, do your thing, Evil Gatomon for 1, and then Jogress into Mastemon, and so now your board state is Maste plus Kuzuha. And then if that's not enough, Kuzuha plus Maste can also Jogress into the Ordinamon. So I think this is actually a very interesting take on Kuzuhamon. This is a lot more combo intensive, but the pop off is pretty huge, right? You have so much like board control in this sense. You just so much expansion as well with the 4 Kaiser nails. So I think this is very, very interesting. Okay, moving on. Of course, you do have Shinegreymon. Shinegreymon is predicted to be the best deck in the BT13 format. I will definitely say I like BT12 Shinegreymon a lot more than I do BT13 Shinegreymon. So I would say if you're trying to decide which one to play at a higher ratio, I would definitely play the BT12 Shinegreymon at a higher ratio. But the reason why I have decided to showcase this list, because I don't think this is a good Shinegreymon list as far as standard Shinegreymon goes. There's a lot of things I would take out or change. Like I wouldn't play Security Geogreymon. I wouldn't play EX4 Rice-Greymon. The reason why I'm showcasing off this list is because it runs the one of Ruin mode, and I think that is very interesting. So a lot of Shinegreymon players have actually abandoned the Ruin mode almost entirely, just in favor of trying to have more consistent burst mode turns. But Ruin mode is such a powerful card that I think a lot of people are just kind of sleeping on. It does super well into Hunters. It can just stave off things like opponents' Marcuses if it's only a 3000 DP. And just in general, Ruin mode is very, very powerful. So I think going forward into when we eventually get BT13, right, I think we could definitely see a mix of both Burst and Ruin mode in a lot of Shinegreymon lists. I don't think one is necessarily correct, but I definitely do want to see Ruin mode pick up a little bit more steam. All right. And then, of course, everyone's favorite dinosaur, we do have Agumon and Wargreymon. So you may be asking yourself, okay, well, what did Wargreymon get? Because actually, funny enough, Wargreymon, as far as CG guides is concerned, is the deck with the most results. And where does it all stem from? Well, of course, you have your new tie. And new tie is whenever you redirect a card, whenever you redirect an attack, draw a card, gain plus 2000 DP. So really, really great defensive utility right there. The new Agumon as well as the new Greymon both give you additional memory at the start of your turn. So let me go ahead. Agumon, starting your main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon in play, gain a memory. When an attack target is switched, all turns gain 1 memory. And then Greymon is, from security, you may play an Agumon or a Tamer card with tie in its name that has blocker, and when attack target is switched, gain a memory. So really, really great extenders. The Greymon is a really strong security bomb, playing out your ties for free, as or an Agumon is set up for a lethal or something, a kind of play on your follow-up turn. And the other Agumon is going to go ahead and give you some additional memories, so that way it's a lot harder to get choked out. Both give memory on attack or redirect. BT12 Wargreymon automatically going to redirect. Any blocker Wargreymon really is going to get that redirect. And then you have the Ace Wargreymon coming on out for that 0 cost on your opponent's turn, and then it's going to go ahead and it can redirect for block. So just to clarify, all turns once per turn, when a card is removed from a security stack, unsuspend this Digimon, and it also has blocker. So even if you're tapped out and you take damage, you have this, you unsuspend, you block out. If this card, you can block out initially, take the damage, block again, and do all this crazy stuff. You can also potentially just straight up pass your opponent's turn, because Greymon plus Agumon is all turns, gain that memory. So really, really interesting stuff there. And then, of course, you have your ties and whatnot to give you a really big, beefy kind of guy. If you happen to be immune to destruction effects, which you can get from the Advance of Courage, unsuspend one of your Digimon, then one of your Digimon with Greymon in his name is not affected by your opponent's Digimon effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So with that Advance of Courage, you are able to make your Greymon stack a lot safer. And then you can just hardwall out your opponent. If you have protection from the Greymon X or the Alteris mode, you're also cooking. Okay, so following up, we do have Gallantmon making a little bit of an appearance. This Gallantmon list is very interesting. because it runs the Megidramon. This is Megidramon from EX2 actually, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up just because I know that's not a very common card. So Megidramon from EX2 is when digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 10,000 DP or less. If no Digimon was deleted by this effect, trash the top 5 cards of both players' decks. On deletion, you may play 1 Gilmon and 1 Tocado from your hand or trash without paying its memory cost. So why is Megidramon is so impactful going forward is because you want to fill up the trash as much as possible. That's why we see a little bit more of that mill support coming in, especially with EX4 BlackWargreymon. And the reason why the payout is the new BT13 Secret Rare Gallantmon. For every 5 cards in either player's trash, reduce the cost of this card by 2, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and double check that. I believe it's 2. Let's see. There's so many Gallantmons. Oh my gosh. Where? Oh yeah, right here. Okay. So yes, correct. It is play cost by 2 for every 5 cards in both players' trash. It has rush on digivolve and when digivolving and on play. It also and when attacking. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. If no Digimon is deleted by the effect, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 13k or more. So this card is very, very potent in terms of like board removal, putting pressure down. It's very easy to rack up that count, so you can get into this for very cheap. So yeah, Gallantmon gives a lot of new tools that I think are very interesting. And then we have a take on BlackWargreymon for the BT13 format. Let me get rid of that. This one, what makes it interesting is that it really utilizes not only the new tie that we get, so again, the read to write, draw a card, game plus 2,000 DP, but also it uses Deltamon to reduce the evolution cost of all of your level 5s by 2. Because they're all dual color. And then the Megidramon, if you have the Megidramon, will allow you to get some additional Tamer pop, so into matchups like the Hunters, really great. And then you, of course, have the Hades Force BlackWargreymon to pop stuff like the Marcus. So yeah, I think this is a very interesting take on the BlackWargreymon, especially utilizing this Deltamon to try and mitigate just how expensive some of your level 5s are going to be. We do have Belphemon. Belphemon is a deck that did pick up a lot of steam at the start of BT13, but as the format began to progress and evolve, it began to dwindle a little bit in results. But I think this is also one of those decks that is very unexplored as far as the results go. And so we're going to showcase off 2 different versions of Belphemon. The mat is when a card is discarded, go ahead and gain a memory. So you have a ton of different ways to force a discard very easily, like Belphemon Sleep Mode, for example. But if you notice, this deck doesn't have any level 4 lower blockers, and that's an adaptation that I think is really important going forward, just because there are... your opponent can kind of just like force their way through Belphemon at times, or if they have like Jijimon with Craniumon, they can swing over it. Raid Wargreymon is another example where you can swing Raid into the Belphemon Sleep Mode, negate the attack, unsuspend, and then Raid again, and you'll kill the Sleep Mode. And so I think that's where the adaptation here comes up, where we do run, for example, 2 of the blocker Fascomon. Because with the Ostomon, discard for Sleep Mode's attack negate, go ahead, play out a Digimon, play out the Fascomon, and the Fascomon can then, block the Wargreymon restand. So I think going forward, I think we'll see a lot of blocker adaptation for Belphemon. I definitely think that's the route I would personally go. But just to be clear, I think this deck is still very, very, very heavily unexplored. Like, you could run level 4 blocker slots, for example. This deck is running the BT6 Mon that does recover a Demon Lord, so you can grab back your Belphemons and whatnot. And just in general, you have to be... I think you have to be really creative when playing this deck, just because there wasn't a lot of this deck running around when you had, like, Shine and Mirage running around, so yeah. And then, interesting purple deck. It's more of a board swarm heavy style of purple deck. So both the Ostomon as well as the SkullMammothmon are, when a card is discarded, go ahead and play a level 4 or lower purple Digimon from your trash. And so you have a ton of like different toolboxes. For example, you have the Bakemon, which is a blocker. You have Saberdramon, which is Retaliation Raid, absolutely fantastic. You also have cards like the Devimon, which is Retaliation. Tapermon gives you Retaliation. You have your Floodgates. SkullMammothmon on Evo is going to discard a card to proc that. Ostomon is only during your opponent's turn, and you may be asking, like, okay, well, how do you get Ostomon's proc off during your opponent's turn? I don't see a lot of ways to discard. Well, you have Metalgarurumon Ace. So if you have, for example, if you go SkullMammothmon, if you have SkullMammothmon, I mean, you don't even technically need SkullMammothmon, but like as an example, if you have SkullMammothmon on the board, SkullMammothmon, Evo, proc, play at a level 4, turn that level 4 into Ostamon. Okay, opponent's turn, opponent doesn't remove the Ostamon, opponent swings, Metalgarurumon, Blast Evolution, proc, Evo over the Ostamon, discard, then trigger the Ostamon, go into a blocker, go into the retaliation, and you can just really mess up your opponent right there. And of course you have the mat to gain that additional memory whenever you do discard a card as well. So yeah, this is a very interesting take on Recursion Purple, just swarming the board as heavily as you can with a really high quality bottom end. And then we have, surprisingly, D-Brigade. So D-Brigade is, of course, a deck that is near and dear to a ton of different people in the community. The card that I think is very intriguing in this list is the inclusion of Quartzmon, for sure, because you can go Quartzmon over the Darkknightmon, but more importantly, you have the new Mat, and Mat is a way better memory tamer than Izzy, let me tell you. And the reason why is because whenever you proc for Kazu, so you swing, draw 1, discard 1, that triggers Mat. And by triggering Mat, that gives you an additional memory, which then you can continue to extend. Also, if you triggered off like a Hagurumon, for example, well, now that's a 2-cost Hagurumon. So Mat is a really interesting addition to the deck, as well as a Quartzmon, so you can play out very aggressive, and then you can fall back onto that Quartzmon to try and like stabilize, slow down your opponent. They try to play a little bit too fast. We have Pawn Chessmon Jijimon. This is the deck I previously mentioned on one of my previous videos or streams. And how the gimmick of this deck works is that you're using Jijimon to turbo out tamers, right? So you're turboing out the Miki, you're turboing out the Tai, you're just turboing out a ton of like really high value tamers. And then the play afterward is that you go ahead and you have one of your Pawn Chessmons eat a hit. So you can force your opponent to attack into your Pawn Chessmon via the Trident Arm, the Lapilas's Demon, or the Sephirothmon. By forcing your opponent to attack, you then they go ahead, kill a Pawn Chessmon, or they kill a Knight Chessmon, whichever one, and that spawns a Pawn Chessmon, and then the Pawn Chessmon spawns in, and the Pawn Chessmon then triggers the Miki, because Miki is both players' turns, so you tap that, draw 1, gain a memory, and if you have enough of those set up, you can just outright steal your opponent's entire turn. So I think that's really, really, really funny, actually. So if you have enough setup going on, then you just outright deny your opponent's entire turn, because the 3 cards I previously mentioned, they force your opponent to attack start of main phase. And then really quick, I just want to verify. So if you notice, it does run the Platinum Sukamon. And Platinum Sukamon is on deletion, de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. So if you're just trying to chuck out a little bit of fodder, because if you remember, Jijimon plays out bodies for free as well when attacking, so you can get out the Platinum Sukamon. And then with the Mamemon, you play the Mamemon hard, Mamemon play out a tamer, and then you can Blast Evolution the Mamemon into the Wargreymon. That's a really powerful defensive tool. And then you have the Promo Edamon, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up real quick, because this is a card I don't actually know when we're going to get it in English. It's currently out in JP. That Promo Edamon is on play when Digivolving, de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then ESS on deletion, you may play 1 yellow or black Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less from your hand without paying its cost. So again, you go ahead and play out those Pawn Chessmons for free. Okay. Towards the end, we have 2 lists left. We have Darkknightmon. Darkknightmon is a deck that has a very interesting gimmick in the BT13 format, being that it has access, similarly to Blue Flare, both Sorai as well as Congo, both cards that stop Marcus from swinging, slowing down a lot of their tempo. So I think that very, very interesting potential right there. More so for Blue Flare than anything else, because Blue Flare is a better deck on average than Darkknightmon. But boom, you have Blast Evolution of Wargreymon for your Darkknightmon deck, because Darkknightmon is a level 5, so you can Blast Evolution over it. And between these two lists, because like obviously this one doesn't run the Sorai Congo, but between these 2 lists, I think you can find like a really nice middle ground to have a very defensive and powerful deck that can stave off Shinegreymon. But if you land a Mirage, then you're going to get bounced. So like, But yeah, so that is the first BT13 Eyes on the Meta, rather. And I know that we're going to go to BT14 very shortly, so I'm really excited to see what happens then. So thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.